Welcome to today's episode of the Group X podcast. I'm your host, Tony Zanardo. If you're enjoying the podcast and would like to show your support, then head on over to the website and click on the Patreon link to find out how to become a show supporter. Today, I'll be talking to Sarah Ostergaard, who for over 20 years was a trainer and presenter for Les Mills International. We talk about many things, one of which being connection, how it's done, and how effective it really is. So grab your favourite beverage, sit back, and enjoy the show. Sarah, thank you so much for coming on the show and spending some time with me, and welcome to the Group X podcast.
Hey, Tony, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm a little bit nervous because I'm unsure as to what sort of questions I'm going to get, but yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, excellent. Let's just kick it up right from the beginning then in your career. How did you get into the fitness industry?
I guess from a young age, I've always been involved in sport. My biggest thing was cycling. I did cycling at a competitive level at a young age. And then I stopped cycling. I got into my nursing and I started going to the gym because I wanted an outlet for fitness.
Yep.
And the gym was there for me at that point. And yeah, so just participating in classes. I remember always looking from afar, watching the instructors and thinking how cool of a job it was. You know, I was a nurse and I looked after the sick.
Yep.
And I think quite a difference in the fitness industry, you're preventing the sick. So
Yeah.
it was a more positive industry. But yeah, so I just participated and then I started admiring my now husband from afar. And long story short, he stalked me. Okay, that's not true. And then yeah, I started dating him, and then before you know it, I did it was an introduction to group fitness run by Ruth Pittihi.
Yep.
For those of you that have been around in the fitness industry for a long, long time, she is one of the legends of the fitness industry. She was the GFM. She sort of created Body Jam, I think, with Pete Leo. And she did a course, and it was like a 12-week course, and we'd come every week and we'd learn about teaching group fitness. And it was to a program that Mark New actually created. It was called Body Burn.
Okay.
It was like a low impact program. So we learned how to teach that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I basically began teaching that. And then I went into the circuit studio and taught body circuit.
Yep.
Like an old fashioned sort of circuit training in and out. With weights on the outside, cardio in the middle. And then, then Glenn and I left to go overseas, and we went to Dubai, and we lived there for like nearly 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And he sort of headed up like a personal training company over there.
Yep.
And he also ran some of what was known as BTS, I think it was, some of the trainings and stuff like that, the workshops.
Yep.
And I just got right into my teaching. I was also nursing whilst I was there.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's when I sort of the love when I did body pump, I did combat, I did body attack, I did RPM.
Is there a program? Is there a program you're not trained in? That's the question.
Jam.
Yep.
Dance.
Yeah.
No.
Like me. Yep. Can't dance. Yep.
Funny story. Like I don't have much rhythm. Okay, so when I first started going to Glenn's classes, I dabbled in some of his attack classes.
Yep.
And he still today gives me hassles about it. How basically in the Superman, I was going one way, same arm, same leg, when everyone was going the other way. So he still gives me hassles about that. But so no jam, no dance, and no body balance flexibility classes.
Yep.
Yeah, for my thing.
That's awesome. Hey, I if you don't mind, I want to ask you about cycling. You mentioned that you were doing that sort of way back in the beginning. How did you get into cycling, and what level of cycling? Because my understanding is from the bits and pieces that I've seen, you were like pretty elite in the cycling space.
Yep. So I got into cycling because my brother was into it. I think I was about 11 when I first started riding.
Yep.
And I rode up until I was about 17. And I rode at a national level, like I was one of the top riders in New Zealand. And unfortunately, I think it was when I was 17, I did the New Zealand Nationals, and I was expected to win and I didn't win, and I didn't have the tools to deal with that.
Yep.
And in reflection now, like, I wish that somebody had helped me to deal with that loss.
Yeah.
I should, in my mind, I was like, it was unspoken I was going to win, but I didn't win.
Yeah.
And so I gave up then. And then when I was an adult at about 35, I took it back up again, and I still had the ability, but I had a lot more mental determination and focus. So yeah, I represented New Zealand and raced in France and Australia and Canada, and did lots of racing overseas. I had an amazing opportunity racing for my country, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And lucky to be able to get a second chance at it as well.
Awesome. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I can only imagine being 17 and going through what you went through. That would have been a challenge, and yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, and in reflection now, I wish that somebody had talked to me and helped me through that.
Yeah.
And also with my own children,
Yep.
That's one of the things I focus on, that it's okay to lose.
Yeah.
But it's how you get back up from that loss that makes the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love that, because I've got a 6.5-year-old, and she'll tell me she's 6.5, let me tell you. And it's the same sort of thing we're going through with her at the moment. There's still a lot of steep learning, and it's right. You use those lessons you learn as an adult or through your life to pass on to your kids, and hopefully give them the best that they possibly can as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that info on that. So you mentioned, was it Body Burn?
Yes, Body Burn. There was one song that just sticks in my head. It was Ricky Martin's She Bang. She Bang.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
That was an awesome RPM track from memory as well, back in the early teens.
That was the track 5, wasn't it?
Yeah, somewhere between 11 and 15 or 17 or something like. God, yeah, that's taking me back. Wow, it was an awesome track too.
Yeah,
we have. Love it. So the time in Dubai was that wasn't involved with Les Mills? That was pre Les Mills?
Glenn worked for Les Mills.
Yep.
But I sort of just taught at the gym that we were based at.
Yep.
Yep.
Awesome. When did you do your training for RPM then?
Over in Dubai.
You did? I
think I learned on RPM 7.
Oh, wow. Wow, the early stuff.
Yeah. I think, just for the record, it was in CD. It wasn't cassette.
Yeah. It wasn't on a record.
It wasn't on a record, no.
Oh, excellent. So who was your initial module trainer?
Oh, this really average trainer. I think his name was Glenn someone.
Glenn, if you're listening, or I hope you are listening, that was her, not me. That was your wife. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Glenn Ostergaard. He taught me how to teach RPM.
How was the training back then? Not how was Glenn in delivering the training, but the training that you did back then compared to what we're seeing these days.
It was very basic. It was very, very basic. I remember the Race of Truth, for those of you that remember the original Race of Truth. That was pretty hardcore. But yeah, the training was quite basic in comparison to now. I think these days it's much more analysed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're over in Dubai for 2 years and then came back to
nearly.
New Zealand?
Yep, we came back to New Zealand. I continued to nurse as an operating room nurse.
Yep.
So I did that, and I also went straight into teaching at Les Mills. So I just, I would teach, I was crazy, young and stupid. I'd teach a 6 a.m. class. I would then run to the hospital, and I would work at the hospital, and then I'd run back to the gym, and I'd teach another class at night.
Oh,
and being a theatre nurse, you're up on your feet the entire day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nuts. I don't know how I did it.
Wow. Yeah. We do silly. I can say we do silly things when we're young. Where I was teaching when I started in 2003, 2004, I got to a stage where I was teaching up to 18 RPM classes in a week in 7 days.
RPM, wow.
There was one, and I was doing PT as well. I had PT clients as well. And there was one stage where I collapsed in the showers in the change rooms, and the guys picked me up and put me out in the change area and were like, "Dude, you're all right." And I hadn't eaten properly. I hadn't looked after myself. I was just, I've got to make money. I've got, rent was expensive in North Sydney. I had to do everything, and it was, it was just nuts and crazy. But hey, you learn. I've never done that again.
You do. It's all learning experience, isn't it?
I think I then dropped it down to
mistakes, as our parents have told us.
Yes, I dropped it down to 3 classes a week and kept it there, and I was like, you know what, that's good.
Wow, that's quite a contrast. 18 to 3.
Oh, look, it was when I was building my PT business, so I was waiting or getting clients on board, and
that's a good way to get clients.
That sort of to get it right, and it was all good. This is the Group X podcast. So, when did you start presenting, and how did that opportunity arise?
So I started presenting with Mike McSweeney, RPM 23.
Yep, that was the release that I learned.
I think it was just a matter of right time, right place. Pretty young girl. Because at that point I didn't speak. I just was on the stage, smiling away beside him. That was an interesting experience. Like, Mike is a legend. He is awesome. Like, a very iconic person in his day, and today as well. So he was funny, man. Gosh, things have changed. So like, I got told I was going to be presenting on video, and I'll be like, okay, so am I going to get the music? Are you going to show me what's the choreography and stuff? And literally the day before, he said to me, "Hey, Sarah, meet me in the studio. We're going to go through the release." And so I came the day before, waited for him, and he didn't show up. And so the next day we filmed, and I was like, okay, cool.
So you hadn't heard the music before filming?
I hadn't heard the music. But,
that's excellent.
In today's way of preparation for the master classes, it's so different.
Way different.
There's a lot of preparation, a lot of time. But back in those days, like, I actually think he created the music and the choreography, cut the music and choreography that day before, even on the day of the filming. So, back in those days, you didn't need to get music clearance and licensing. We sort of did it.
It's very different.
Unofficially and stuff. We could use any music. You could edit it in any way. So today's world has changed substantially.
Well done for you, though, for getting up there and going, cool, okay, whatever you do, Mike, I'm just going to follow. I'm going to, this is brilliant. That's a baptism of fire if I've ever seen one.
And then in RPM 24, I got to wear a microphone. And I remember him saying to me, "Don't say much. Don't say." So I wore a microphone and I was like, woo! Yay! I'd have to go back and actually watch them. Oh my gosh, I would have been like 24, I think. Yeah, 24 or 25. It's a long time ago, right?
Because that was a release. 23 RPM 23 was a release that I learnt on. Pete Manuel, as listeners know, was my initial module trainer here in Sydney.
Legend too.
And I had Faster, Harder, Scooter, the track 5, and wow, that was But
you never forget your module track that you learn on, eh?
No, it was that one, and then I think it was track 6 as well, because I think Pete had sort of given me 2 to sort of work on it from memory. I don't know why I think it was track 6. It could have been. I don't understand why. But anyway, my brain just has that moment. But it was track 5 was just intense. Yeah,
I'll never forget. I don't know if it was 23 or 24, but the song, I think it's "What's Up." I think
track 3 of 23.
And I'll never forget that. That was the most memorable experience. The way Mike taught it, and the room and the music, like, I just get goosebumps now just remembering it. It was pretty darn awesome.
We had the Les Mills Live event happen down in Melbourne just this last weekend gone, and we haven't had a live event for quite a few years due to COVID. I think the last one was 2019 or maybe 2018. I can't quite remember.
Crazy.
And the energy in that room, as soon as the guys hit play, there were 75 bikes in the room, 76 bikes in the room being ridden, and just yeah, goosebumps as you're just saying then. As soon as they hit play, the energy from the instructors in the room plus the guys, the trainers on stage, just something where everybody in that room was in that moment going, you know what, yeah, we've missed this and this is brilliant. And yeah.
So nice that we can reconnect again, eh?
Yeah. Memories being created and experiences with instructors being shared yet again, which is a nice thing.
So important, group fitness, group exercise.
Yeah, thank you.
Group exercise is, it is largely about that whole connection.
Yeah.
And we've just lost it over the last couple of years. In fact, we've lost it with so many things. I actually sent an email to the school principal the other day, talking about that whole subject of connection. Because of COVID, connection has just been lost so much on so many levels with people, and in particular with the school. And I was saying to her, what ways can we get that connection back into that school, reconnect, get that community, and in the fitness world, doing these live events is one way, and it's so great that we've started it again.
Yeah. So when did you actually get to present a track? You had the mic on for 24.
Okay, so RPM 20, I was shadowing for 23, 24 kind of, and 25, and then 26 is the release that Glenn and I sort of did together.
Yep.
And that was the Night Train release.
Yes.
Night Train.
Yep.
Yeah, I taught a couple of tracks on that release with the mic.
Yep.
So that was my first time. I remember I was a bit like a possum in headlights.
Yeah.
Like, it was a pretty scary experience, but it was pretty cool too.
What was the lead up to that like for you? You'd been around it, and you'd obviously were being in that environment. Yeah. I suppose, what preparation do you sort of do, or what preparation can you do leading up to filming?
I guess it was just lots of classes, because Steve Renata taught with us as well.
Yep.
And he was the experienced one. He was seen as the experienced one. This was Glenn's first RPM release as well.
Okay. Yep.
So Steve, we sort of leaned on Steve quite a bit. We just practiced heaps. I think Emma Barry might have came and done some feedback for us. But again, back in those days, there was no real structure with the lead up into the filming of the masterclass. Yeah, it was sort of like trial and error.
This is the Group X podcast. Were you involved in any training of instructors in New Zealand, or has it just been the presenting side of things that you're doing?
No, I was involved with lots of RPM trainings. I only did RPM, but in 2005, oh my gosh, so long ago, Glenn and I went over to America, and we spent about 6 weeks over there. And we went with Kylie Gates.
Yep.
We went on the east side, she went on the west side of the States, and we spent the time launching Body Attack into the States.
Yep.
So we did some Body Attack trainings over there, which was quite fun. But Glenn and I was especially pretty green and new at it. Glenn had done lots of trainings in Dubai and in New Zealand as well.
Yeah.
But I remember there was one module that I think it might have been our first one in Pennsylvania. We were only talking about this the other day, and we were having a wee giggle. So we were launching Body Attack. There was lots of instructors there. There was about 20 or so. And we get to the end of day one, and we'd finished about 3 hours early. We're like, what are we going to do now? It's funny. Yeah.
Well, it's good that you went through the content. They were obviously learning the content and absorbing everything that was there. It's not like you would have missed something out.
We delivered everything that was there. It was just somehow we'd finished it early.
Yeah.
But whilst we were there, we presented lots of quarterlies and stuff.
Yep.
We were talking about the fact that we taught, like, on one day we'd teach 2 pump classes, a Body Attack, 2 RPMs, all in one day.
Wow.
And then the next day we'd go and do it again.
Yeah.
Oh.
So was it just the two of you that were over there on
that side? And there was a few sort of presenters around, Tara and Angel, that have sort of only just sort of stopped teaching within Les Mills in the last few years. But funny though, that a lot of the presenters well, probably not today because the presenters have shifted, but a lot of the trainers in America did our module training back then.
Yep.
Which it was quite cool seeing them grow and come from that early stages of instructor and then become a presenter and trainer and stuff in the States.
The American instructors, are they quite different to what you're used to seeing in Australia?
Yeah. Australia and New Zealand instructors are very different to American instructors.
Yep.
And yeah.
Yeah. We'll leave that one there.
Yeah. No, I think Kiwis and Australians are quite similar. We sort of like get stuck in.
Yep.
And I think for the Americans, even like up until recently, when I was giving coaching feedback for RPM presenters, like my feedback would always be, I think you just need to work a bit harder and express and authenticate the workout more.
Yeah.
That you're actually trying to role model here.
Yep.
It's just different. I think just different.
Yeah.
People.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. What's been your favorite part of your journey with the Les Mills experience? Is there something where you can pinpoint and go, you know what, this is the moment or memory that sticks out more than anything else?
I've got probably two. One would be doing it with Glenn. Like that was pretty awesome.
Yep.
Like we worked together like for quite some time. Like he would basically do all the music and choreography and stuff, and then I'd do the behind the scenes stuff, the notes and the education and stuff like that.
Yep.
Working with him, like it did have its challenges. It wasn't always roses. Don't get me wrong.
Yep.
There would be a lot of arguments, especially in the beginning when I sort of was trying to express my creative side.
Yeah.
And sort of, I guess I stopped doing that, and it just made that relationship a little bit easier. That working relationship.
Yep.
So working with Glenn was certainly one of them. Like, yeah, I love that. And being probably the role model for females in the RPM cycle space was probably my second one.
Yep.
And being, I guess, a former cyclist and being able to authenticate on a real level how to ride a bike and stuff like that. And as a female, being able to teach other females to do the same thing, it's quite cool.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite RPM release?
I knew you were going to ask that question. RPM 63, RPM 64. RPM 63 was with Lee and Glenn.
Yep.
That was just the most awesome release. Like, just like Lee is, I think probably why it was so awesome is because the three of us, we complement each other very, very well. We complemented each other very, very well. Lee is a wordsmith. Yeah.
Isn't he what?
Yes. Yeah. He is just the most amazing instructor. He was, came from the element of coaching. Glenn, he comes from the element of physicality.
Yep.
He just smashes himself on a bike and he just works so hard and he's the ultimate role model. And then me, I come from an aspect of connection and bringing everyone with me on a journey.
Yeah.
And I think the three of us, we just complemented each other really well. And then 64, I think, for me was my other favorite. That was when Glenn he broke his foot on a New Year's Eve.
Oh no!
Night. He broke his foot. He got a little bit drunk and broke his foot. And so he couldn't present. So we were with Lee Mirko from Germany and myself, and just the music on that one. That was really cool. I love the music.
Awesome. What did? What can you tell us? What Glenn did to break his foot?
So we were renovating our house at the time and there was some uneven cobblestones and he just basically so we're walking down the steps and he stepped up in the cobblestones and he broke his foot. And we were going to do a sprinting race up the street. And it was funny because he rolled his ankle and then he didn't really notice that it was actually that sore until the next day. Funny enough. And so we're like, it can't be sore. You walked all that way because we walked down to the beach, went for a swim the night and stuff. And so when the next day we went to A&E and had to get it x-rayed, and sure
Yeah.
enough it was broken.
Wow. So he was out of action and wasn't able to
Yeah.
wow. Yep. Loved it.
Yeah, he hasn't
Love
missed
it.
many DVDs actually. There's only been a few.
Yep. Yep. How many releases have you been on? How many have you presented on?
I don't know. I don't. I've never
Many.
counted.
Yep.
Lots. Like I guess I started in 23, and my last one was at 74, I think.
Yep.
And there was a couple that I didn't teach. There's a couple that I didn't teach. So there's quite a few.
Yeah. So your role with Les Mills International, being presenter, being trainer, did you have any other roles that you did in the background? I know you mentioned that you were doing a bit of the choreography, notes and education stuff.
Yep.
Is there anything else that you had done with Les Mills?
There's a time that I was sort of doing like some project management work. So with the body pump, with the launch of the new weight set that we brought in.
Yep.
The weights. I did some of that, and then used to do all the proofing, and I used to write body pump, write sprint notes.
Yep.
And then I would proof a series of programs as well.
Yep.
As well, the proofing.
This is the Group X podcast. Filming has changed so much since the early days that now obviously we're seeing it film for Les Mills Plus or Les Mills On Demand, whatever it's called at the moment as well. How was that for you? How was filming in that environment? Because obviously the early days were with a class, and then it sort of evolved towards the end where it was no longer a class as such, but there were people there in front of you, but not a live class as in, we could fly over from Australia to come and be part of the class.
Thing.
Yeah, it used to be massive.
Yeah.
How was that experience for you when that changed?
Like I mentioned just earlier, for me, one of my biggest strengths, I guess you'd call it, is connection. And when people got taken away from being in front of me in a filming class situation, I sort of did struggle. I did struggle. But I guess it's just a matter of changing it to the thought of the camera is your person and you're talking to the camera.
Yep.
Delivering your content to the person in the camera.
I like when you said that then, because you looked in the camera.
I sort of always wished, I know from a financial perspective it probably wasn't an option, but I kind of wish that there was two filmings.
Yep.
There was a filmings for the instructor where we delivered like a normal class with participants in front, and so the instructor could learn from the presenter how it is to teach a normal class. And then the other product was the Les Mills On Demand product, where we taught basically down the camera. But for me personally, I did struggle at the beginning answering your question. But I got used to it. It was okay.
You adapt and do what's got to be done. You're a professional. Of course you're going to. Of course. So how long ago did you leave Les Mills and being involved in what you're involved with there?
So I resigned. It was just before our lockdown last year. So that was like August, September, I think it was. Wasn't good timing because I was wanted to focus on my business, and then lockdown happened, and sort of the business kind of struggled quite a bit. And didn't have that income coming in as much as I'd hoped. But so it was about August, September-ish last year.
Talk to us about what you're doing now with Mum Squad and your business, because that's I've jumped into and had a look at quite a fair bit of that stuff and followed it as well. Tell our listeners that might not have been aware or might not be aware what it is, what it's all about.
I guess it comes from my own experience, my personal experience, is being a mum, knowing what it's like, knowing how hard it is. And I'm fortunate because I've got my own self-motivation to get up when I'm tired and not feeling motivated to exercise. I can motivate myself because I know how good it makes me feel and all the benefits. So I guess I started it because I wanted to motivate women like me who have young children and, well, not so much like me, but who struggle to find their motivation to exercise.
Yep.
So Mum Squad officially began about 3 years ago. There was two neighbours that said to me, "Oh, hey Sarah, do you want to just come and join us, go and do a workout?" And I was like, "Yeah, cool, let's do this." So every Sunday we would meet at the school, which is across the road from our house. And I ended up having like 20, 25 people that came, and we'd
Wow.
all do our weights and we'd do our workouts.
Yep.
And then someone said to me, "Oh, do you think you could teach more classes? You know, one's not really enough." And then I started doing more classes, and then I was doing 5 a week.
Oh, wow.
And so then I created a bit of a business.
Yep.
And so I was enjoying it immensely because I was getting women who would never step foot in a gym
Yeah.
because of many reasons. One,
Yep.
their confidence.
Yep.
You know, they find it quite daunting to go into a gym situation. Two, time. Like, we live in a little peninsula in Devonport, which is still in Auckland, but
Yep.
but it's a bit of a drive to get to the gym.
Yeah.
So it's quite isolated where we are. So people found it easy to have the accessibility to just come and join me locally.
Yep.
It's great. And I empower women to find a better version of themselves. I've since sort of taken that a little bit further since the COVID period, and taken it online.
Yep.
And I now offer like an 8-week program. At first, it was kind of designed called Drop a Dress Size, and I've always struggled with that because everybody comes in all shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
And I don't, people struggle with body images and stuff,
Yep.
and I don't like to make a point of it.
Yep.
So I've sort of kind of reframing it now to a program called Body Love, and getting women to love themselves again,
Yep.
to find themselves again. It doesn't have to be after having children, but most commonly that's what people are attracted to me, because they've had children, and I can relate to them.
Yep.
So it's an 8-week program where they work on their nutrition. I teach them how to eat properly, healthily, living by the whole 80-20 sort of focus.
Yeah. Yep.
It's okay to eat some bad foods every now and then, but just as long as you eat healthy most of the time.
Yeah.
And then exercise, and teaching them like mindset and that sort of thing, just becoming a better version of themselves.
Awesome.
So that's Body Love. That's an 8-week program, and I run those 4 times a year. Normally have sort of about 15 to 20 people in a program.
Yep.
And we do weekly Zooms, and I put all my workouts on a portal.
Yep.
I set up a website and stuff, and which has been quite cool. All learning all that IT stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I've also sort of looking at perhaps another sort of focus that I'm going to move towards as I get older. I'm not quite at that point yet, but for women going through the next stage of their life, going through perimenopause and menopause, because I've since started learning about it, I see that a lot of women don't talk about the subject. It's not a subject that's commonly talked about.
Yep.
And a lot of women suffer in silence, and so I want to empower women through that period of their life as well. That's my next sort of.
I think that's brilliant, and I say that not because you're standing in front of me, or not because you're on video in front of me, but you've targeted. There's a market there that we don't see a lot of exercise for people going through menopause, premenopause, or even women that, as you said, don't feel confident in walking into a gym. Being able to give something back to the community in that way, I think is brilliant, because it's whether it's in New Zealand or whether it's here in Australia, is a target market that still want to train. There's a market that's sitting there.
It's always been something that I've struggled with Les Mills is that point. Like, Les Mills is very much focusing on the millennials, the 18 to 35 year bracket, and like when I sort of got taken off DVDs and stuff, like it wasn't because I wanted to focus on my children. That was not the reason. It was because they wanted new people to come through, which is fabulous.
Yep.
And I'm super stoked that I got to help Dee come through and lift her up and teach her. Like, I was really honored to help Dee because she's the most loveliest person. But I do struggle with the fact that, you know, it's all about the younger generation.
Yep.
And
totally agree with you on what you're saying.
All about the young.
Yeah.
And who's looking after our age bracket?
It's look, you're 100% accurate and right with what you're saying, and I agree with you wholeheartedly with that. It is, I drink the Kool-Aid, as everybody knows. I'm Les Mills through and through. It's in my veins, you know. I see Les Mills here in Australia as my family. And me too
still, right?
And that'll never ever change because it's what got me into the industry and got me involved in everything I'm doing. Yep. I do struggle with the fact that the music that is chosen these days, I can't gel with. My music, I can't connect to it. My music is from the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and as we did that, I'll tell our listeners that before we started recording today, I asked Sarah what her favourite song was, and we listened to it before we started, which was brilliant because it was a new song by a relatively new artist that I haven't listened to before, and I actually enjoyed that music, and that was great. It was something different, but most of the music that's being used, I can't gel with, and I know being 46, if I can't gel with it, there's a lot of people in my age bracket that can't gel with it either. Now, I'll use an example of one of the clubs that I'm working with here in Wollongong had a chat to me because post-COVID, they've struggled to get people back into their gyms. And for many, many reasons, but the main reason they come up with said, Tony, we think it's got to do with the music. So I said, okay, try something for me. Just throw this out there. Go back to some of your old releases. I know Les Mills says, no, we shouldn't be going back. It should be just, X amount of releases. So, but just try something for a couple of weeks. So they've gone back and done all music that is from the early releases for Pump in the 50s. Yep. Their numbers have tripled because they're actually now playing music and engaging those members that are their members that are there that want that older style music. Now, don't get me wrong, the what Les Mills are doing, and they need to continue going. Otherwise, we're all going to fall off the perch and they're not going to have new people coming through. So I grab that concept completely. What I do think needs to happen is clubs out there need to realise, while it's great to play all the new stuff, you need to continue to focus on who's in front of you as well. Yes, we all need to get new members coming through, but don't forget about the ones you've currently got sitting in front of you.
Yeah, and I guess, as I've always spoken to Glenn about this, and a lot of our generation don't like that kind of music, and his rationale is also not only because we're catering for the younger generation, but it's also because that music that we grew up with isn't really out there all that much. Yes. Music has changed, it's shifted. But in saying that, some of the old music is coming back. I don't know if you've noticed, there's been lots of different samples of the music.
Of the old stuff,
you will see some old music come into RPM in the next few releases. Like he just did, I don't know if it's 93 or 94. I don't know which one it was, but there's heaps of old tunes in there, and all the older generation will love it. It's a cool release. But I understand that. From
a business, I totally appreciate what Les Mills are doing, and we need to look at it. I mean, the struggle that we have here in Australia, and I'm so happy to be corrected if I'm wrong. If anyone that's listening that wants to let me know, please do so. I'm more than open to it. The demographic we have that are doing group exercise classes here in Australia is aging. Group exercise, as we know. The younger generation, we're seeing some, but we're not seeing a lot. And I believe that it's due to, I don't want to do what mum and dad have done. I don't want to do that. I want to do something different. I'll go to Barry's Bootcamp, or I'll go to Orange Theory. I'll go to do something different that is still group exercise because it's a group of people exercising, but it's not traditional what we're seeing in Group X studios as such.
The aerobics kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think that's while I get, as I said, I get and understand the concept that Les Mills are trying to do with it, I think we are also missing a little bit of, we need to take care of that aging demographic. We need to still offer them something, because if we're not, they're going to stop coming to the gym. They're going to stop coming. They're going to do some other stuff. They're going to and great, your business has tapped into that because you're engaging them doing some other stuff at home and engaging that demographic. But if they don't know you, they don't know that's on offer either.
Yeah, it's difficult to get out there too. Like for me, I just don't know how to get out there. I'm just not that savvy with marketing myself. Like for that. But back to the Les Mills, like, I think they're aware of it.
Yep.
Like Glenn's at the moment, he's working on something that could potentially change the cycle space.
That's really cool to hear.
So,
that's we obviously you can't say too much, and I appreciate that as well. But that's look, that's nice to know that they are looking at it as well, and it is aware. I am going to get in contact with Glenn and get him to come on for a chat as well. So I'll ask him some interesting questions as well.
This is the Group X podcast.
I think it's relevant now more so than pre-COVID because we're starting to, especially here in Australia, not a lot of people have gone back to training. There were some clubs that were seeing 30 plus members in classes that are now seeing 5 or 6. In certain states, depending on how the level of lockdown was for each state over here to what's happening. I see Queensland, they're almost back to normal, back to full capacity, if not more, people missing out on classes, and it's different to each state. How is that in New Zealand with the gyms in New Zealand? How has COVID affected?
I'm not teaching in the gym anymore, but with my classes in particular, like pre-COVID, I was getting like 20 people in my class. And like I teach in a community hall kind of thing at the school hall and stuff. So, I was getting 20 and like sort of about 6 months ago, I was having 5 and it was like, but now it's picking up. I'm getting 10 to 15. So slowly getting there. But the gyms, like Glenn says that, like he teaches the sprint class on a Monday lunchtime and there's 90 bikes. I don't know if there's the full amount of bikes in the class in the studio at the moment. I think there might be 80 or so, I'm guessing. But he reckons it's probably 90% full occupancy.
Wow.
So pretty much getting back to normal, I think.
I think it's going to take a little bit of time. I think it's clubs need to, if they can, persevere and be confident in knowing that people are going to come back, but also look at different ways to attract your members as well. I don't think it's, I think it's an opportunity where we're being able to clear the slate and reset. I think if clubs are doing what they were doing prior, you can't really rely on that. You need to look at it as a different approach now. People are scared, not scared, but people aren't confident to.
That's what I mean. Confidence back.
And I think especially at the moment, it's winter. We're still in winter. We know that winter is 3 months of the year where attendance
Everyone
drops.
goes into hibernation.
Yes. The only place where I haven't seen in winter where it didn't drop is when we lived in Canberra. Now, Canberra's winter is just atrocious. It's cold, like minus whatever degrees when you wake up in the morning, and it may get to a top of 10 degrees at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and then hit 10 back down again, and it drops down. It's crazy. And living there for 5 years, while I love Canberra, I'm glad I don't live there anymore. And then it went to summer, which is 30 to 40 degree days. So there's really not a nice period. But it was the only place where I was teaching on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, where there'd be 80 bikes in the room and still 60 to 70 people rocking up when it was -5. They were still, I think they do it because it was freezing cold. They came in to get warm. That's realistic. But it was not Tony's teaching. It was just that was what was happening and been happening for years. I'm sure it still happens there now. But that was the only place, I said, that I think hasn't seen a dip. I mean, it probably has seen a dip with the amount of people coming in from COVID cases and all that kind of stuff, but I think it's still relatively high up there as well. So give us a little bit more about Mum Squad. What sort of training is it that you're actually doing with your crew?
It's all about resistance training, because as women age, resistance training is fundamental to their health and well-being. Because as women age, their muscle mass drops. I think from the age of 30, their muscle mass starts declining, and then when they hit perimenopause and menopause, that's when it just drops dramatically. So, resistance training is important for muscle mass and therefore increasing metabolism, because your metabolism slows down as you age. So more muscle mass means faster metabolism. but also bone density as well. As women age, they have osteopenia, and sarcopenia is your muscle depletion. So bone density decreases as well. So that's why resistance training is important. So I come from that perspective. I use dumbbells,
Yep.
and I vary my workouts every single session.
Yep.
I do five sessions a week. And so sometimes I do like a body pump type session, not the same, obviously.
Yep.
But then other times it's just varied.
Yeah.
Yeah. Focusing on the whole body.
Are these the online sessions, or are these the sessions
Yep.
you're doing in the hall?
Both. So
Both.
what I do
Yep.
is I do a hybrid model. I
Yep.
film the live session, and then
Excellent.
I have people do it live at home,
Yep.
or they do it on demand at home.
Yep. Brilliant.
Yeah.
I was going to touch on that, and it's one thing that I think that is, in my opinion, how clubs can try and attract more
And they can
people at the moment.
Pivot.
Yeah. Sorry, every time I hear pivot, I think of the Friends episode.
I know.
Lost, yeah.
Pivot. Me too.
It's
Maybe
brilliant.
that
As soon as
counts
I heard it at a fitness presentation somewhere, and I had to put my head down and keep giggling. I was like, "Oh my god, you've just set me off this." Yeah,
It's so
Eddie.
funny.
But I think clubs need to look at. Yeah, we went into lockdown, and so everyone went online, doing stuff online.
Yeah.
We've gone back to no longer in lockdown, and for some reason, that stopped in a lot of clubs. And they're like, "Oh, hang on a second." And I've heard and read some stuff on social media from clubs whinging and complaining, saying, "Oh, we lost members to Les Mills Plus, and they're not coming back in." It's like, well, what are you doing? What are you doing to combat that? Not to what are you doing to try and get members back in? If you don't have a video camera in the corner of your room or somewhere that's on stage watching or filming and broadcasting or streaming what's going on, you're behind the 8 ball. Because if Tony, for some reason, couldn't get, here I am talking in the third person, you idiot, what are you doing? If I couldn't get to a 5:30 class, but I could get home in time for 5:30 because I have to look after my daughter, I can pop her in front of the TV for 20 minutes or half an hour. If I can duck downstairs to the gym or wherever I'm going to do my exercise, I would prefer to have my instructor that I know from my gym rather than jumping on and I can do that Les Mills On Demand stuff at any time, which is great, and it can still be there. But if I really wanted to do my class with Sarah at 5:30 on Monday night, but I couldn't get in there, knowing that I could still do it at home as part of my gym membership, the experience isn't going to be the same, but it's still going to be better than not doing something or going, "Oh, no." I can still feel engaged, and you as the instructor that's there can still connect with me because you know that I'm going to have some people at home that aren't able to get in. I can still do this, and I think I believe, as I said, that's the next evolution potentially as we look at it. I think it's great though that you're doing it, that you're actually recording your classes to show them and have them guys, you weren't able to make it today because your kids had netball or whatever it may be. Brilliant. Here it is. You can jump in later and do it, but you can also do it live with us if you can't make it down to the hall.
100%. There's lots of mums that do my workouts that don't come in. They literally live 2 minutes down the road.
Yep.
They do it live.
Yep.
Because their husband leaves at 6 a.m. so they can still do the workout. It's super cool.
Yeah.
But I think it brings me back to that whole, what I said to you at the beginning of this conversation is group exercise is all about connection. It's about that community. And you can still have that connection and community, even if it is down a camera.
Yeah.
Because these people come because of me, because of what I bring, how I make them feel, and what I create for them.
Yeah.
So it's important to keep that connection and that community going, be it online or live.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Brilliant. Now, what's in the future for Sarah? What are your plans moving forward? You're obviously going to continue with Mum Squad, but is there anything?
Yep. Oh, I also do another thing I do is I do a live online cycle class as well.
Oh, hey, tell me more about that. I like that idea.
Yeah. So I do one a week, and I've got a little small membership, but the same people come every week. They don't come. They turn up.
Yep.
Online. And it's super cool. I love it. I love it so much because it's sharing my passion for all things riding. And so I do that on a Wednesday morning at 7:30 in New Zealand time.
How can people find out more about this? How can I get people to jump on?
So just go on to my website, mumsquadfitness.com.
Yep.
And just look under the cycle tab and you'll see it.
Brilliant.
It's just, you just join via Facebook, and it's done on Facebook. I can't see you, but you can see me.
Yep.
And my music is actually pretty cool. It's pretty awesome music. It's not it's not Les Mills music, obviously. But I choreograph my own workout in 45 minutes.
Excellent.
It's a cool workout. I love it.
Excellent.
It's awesome.
Engaged. That's brilliant. I love hearing that. Thank you for sharing. And to anyone that is out there listening, so it was mumsquadfitness.com. Yep. And then look at the cycling tab. Is that what you said?
Tab.
Yep. Jump on there and have a look. I'm going to push this for you and hopefully get some more people jump on there, because I know there's going to be quite a fair people listen here as well. So let's see if we can get some. I may even try and jump on myself if I can. So what time on a Wednesday?
7:30 a.m. So that's like 5:30 your time.
Whoa, okay, yep. I'm usually up feeding the dogs, but that's all right. I'm going to manage this.
But it's saved, so you can do it on demand
if
you want to.
Yeah.
Like I've got people who do it over in the UK, so it's 8:30 p.m. for them at the moment, and they're there every week.
Excellent.
Oh, so cool.
Love it.
I love it.
So this is a silly question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is your format and your structure similar to what we would experience with in RPM?
Sometimes.
Is that
Sometimes.
Yep.
It's I mean it's the 3 variables: speed, power, and strength.
Yep.
Sometimes I do like a sprint type, high intensity type workout.
Yep.
Or sometimes I do like a more sort of RPM type workout.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
It's pretty cool. I love doing that.
This is the Group X podcast.
Does our industry need to change anything? When I say our industry, I'm talking about the fitness industry, but group exercise specifically. Is there anything that our industry should be looking to do that we're not doing at the moment?
Probably the thing that comes into my mind is back to that topic of the age group thing. Diversity in that respect. I'd like to see more inclusiveness with presenters.
I like the word you used then, diversity. That's a powerful word. Very.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, like Les Mills are good in the respect that they started to do body image, body shape diversity.
Yep.
I think that needed to happen a long time ago. But let's talk about age diversity. There should be a bit of that.
Yeah.
Glenn, he's obviously older. Kylie,
no.
but
Glenn's not old, is he?
No,
I know you said older, not old, right?
Yeah. I think there needs to be a bit more diversity in that respect.
Yeah.
Because you think about the users of the product. What ages are they?
Yeah.
Like I'd imagine that the Les Mills On Demand user group would be probably our age group.
Yep.
Maybe the gyms, they're definitely younger bracket. I just think there should be more inclusivity.
I think that the age bracket would probably vary from country to country as well.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that.
I think in America you'd probably have the older instructors.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was interesting here at the Les Mills Live event on the weekend in Melbourne. The looking around them, and I stood there. I was taking photos of the bikes, obviously for body bike side of things. Yep. But I managed to just stop for a moment and reflect on who was in the room, and there was a instructor demographic that was, I'm going to say, mid-20s up to probably some even in their early 50s. Yeah.
Cool.
The big chunk, I would say, would have been around that 40-year-old age bracket, looking at them. And that's I believe, comes down to what we've seen here in how COVID affected us. The younger demographic went to get full-time jobs, and so I've stepped away from being an instructor. because they were, oh, hang on a second, we don't have an income, we need to do something here. I think the older instructors that were there or are still around teaching, it's always been a second job. So we've managed to juggle that properly to work in with, you know what, cool, I can still teach 1 or 2 classes a week and I'm happy to do so and happy to still stay engaged in what's going on. But it was quite interesting to see that age bracket that is there as an instructor side of things. But I do believe that, as we mentioned before about looking at how clubs engage their demographic, which they have in there. So, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Very interesting.
Last question I'm going to throw at you.
Okay.
You ready for this?
Bring it
What
on.
bit of advice can you give to instructors that might be listening who want to improve on what they're doing as an instructor or look to become a trainer presenter?
100% would be yourself. Teach from your strengths. Don't focus on what you need to work on, but be yourself. Be authentic. I think that's a really important place to come from.
Yep.
Don't try to be someone who you're not, because that, it stands out. People know. People can see through that.
Yeah.
But that comes with time. That comes with experience and confidence in yourself, your own ability, confidence in you as a person. So authenticity, be yourself, and then teach from your strengths.
Yep.
So find what you're good at and enhance that, amplify it tenfold.
Yeah.
Because your strength is what people come for day in, day out, right?
Yeah.
They come because you are a good coach, you're a good connector, you move well on the bike, you move well with weights, whatever.
Yep.
Just enhance that strength.
Yep. Brilliant. Thank you. Hey, I've just thought of a bonus question. Bonus round. Yep.
Yeah.
What's your why?
What's my why? That's an awesome question. And something that I think about all the time. It's to bring, it's to connect people into, to connect people into probably me. I love bringing people along with me on a journey. I love helping people. I love connecting with people. I love uplifting people, bringing them up. Probably, that's probably my why.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sarah,
Okay.
thank you so much for spending an hour and a bit with me and coming on the show for a chat. I greatly appreciate your story, where you've come from, and thank you so much for what you've done for Group X as well and what you're continuing to do.
Thanks, Tony. I've loved this last hour and a bit with you. It's been awesome. It's been cool to reflect back on my time as an instructor and where I'm going to now. It's pretty cool. It's great to be able to share it, and I hope for you, those of you that are listening at home, I hope you've enjoyed it.